Welcome, welcome. Let's do the collective energy reading for the week ahead. Today's date that I'm doing this reading is the 12th of April in the Southern Hemisphere. And this reading will go from Monday, which is tomorrow, the 13th of April. I'm using the Forecaster Oracle and we're going to do this in 3 stages. First stage is tapping in and feeling the energy of the collective. I'll also bring in the astrology throughout all sections. And then the second section will be the predictive energy for how this could play out on the world stage and what it means predictively for the week ahead. And the third stage will be the personal predictions. So how this is best navigated, the energy of the collective for the week ahead. So let's get into today's reading. So let's see what the cards want to reveal about the current energies for the week ahead collectively. Now we have some pretty intense astrology, but the main things that are happening in the astrology this week is we have this very heavy stellium in Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars, which talks about conflicts, and we see quite tense energy coming in from the Aries Stellium. Now we have Mercury moving into the stellium, and Mercury represents communication, so we could see tense communications, and I feel that's to do with the negotiations, quite tense, and especially as it draws closer to the movement of Mercury into transiting through Aries. Now it's going to be there as well for a little bit, so it's not just related to the current negotiations, because Mercury is going to be sitting there a bit longer than that, so we're going to see quite tense communication. Fast-paced as well. Aries is very fast-paced. Now the other thing that's happening this week is we have a new moon in Aries. The sun and the moon both sitting in Aries, and that'll be on the 17th of April. So we see this energy here of a very heightened stellium. It brings emotional heightened energy as well, because the moon's going to be sitting there heightening the emotions between trying to bring this conflict to a close, but trying to be heard as well, and trying to have all voices heard is what I'm feeling with this energy. It's like struggles, or it's almost like who speaks the loudest. So it's like having been to get clarity in a conversation which is so divided, and I feel like it's like raised voices, intense conversation, intense communication here, and it feels to be, it's almost like who speaks the louder. They feel like whoever in this scenario is, if my voice is louder, I'm more intense with then I will be heard more. But it's really not the way to engage in negotiations, but I'm feeling it's the heightened energy of this stellium in Aries that's making everyone behave this way. Everybody wants to get their point across. There's ego clashes. There's a feeling of everyone feels to be right, and they want their point of view to be taken seriously. But it's almost like nobody's hearing the other person talk because they're talking so loud. So it's like no one's listening to each other. This is what I'm getting with Mercury and Aries. They're not listening to each other. And now this could be playing out personally as well, on a personal level with people around you, but it can also be playing out in collective things that are taking place with the escalating tension in the world right now. Now, looking at the cards, we're seeing a turning point. The catalyst event is a turning point. That's quite a stressful card there as well. Structure and reform is quite similar to the card when I was reading on the negotiations or the peace talks or that's taking place today as I'm reading, because I'm reading on the Sunday the 12th, which is Saturday evening in the Northern Hemisphere as these talks are actually taking place. Now, I was picking up that the way they're coming to the table with these talks, they need to restructure that. They need to shift their, it's not policies, but shift what they're putting down on the table, what they're bringing to the table, whether it's the way they're delivering that or whether it's the actual things they're bringing to the table. It's quite impossible there seems to be difficulties and challenges in agreeing to terms. Now, structure reform is saying that they're having to overhaul the way things are being delivered in one way, the communication of it all, but also what is actually being put on the table here. And there seems to be a turning point, which is really interesting, because sometimes it can be the catalyst event, the major thing, the big thing that happens to make things turn around. But it could just be saying that we're looking at this could be a possible turning point in the current escalation, even though I feel like they have to restructure the way they're coming to the table with things, or whether the way things are currently being done at the moment. So I'll be putting this video up in a few days, but I feel this energy to me looks like having to restructure the way things are done. Now, does that mean long-term vision for the way we get resources? We're very reliant on the Strait of Hormuz. Even us here as far away as Australia, we're very reliant on this strait. So maybe we're having to look at long-term visions for how we get a smooth, efficient trade all over the world. The foundation, the infrastructure for the long-term vision of trade around the world. This becomes a turning point this week. A whole new structure or reform. This is interesting because these two cards here feel similar to me. They feel similar. And why do they feel similar? Because one's about infrastructure, bridges, buildings, and one is about structure, reformed, overhauled, updated. So there's similarities in that way, but what I'm feeling mostly that's coming from the energy of these cards is that we're having to think about long term of trade and how we receive trade, particularly through the Strait of Hormuz, and having to structure and reform and set foundations that are going to be more adequate for future expansion and growth. Unveiling truth is, or a tell-all, this is information coming out. So this could be what we're hearing, different things that we're hearing about the current peace talks that are taking place right now as I'm doing this reading. Now, internal sabotage, enemy within. What is sabotaging the growth, the long-term vision, the infrastructure, the foundations? What is sabotaging that? It could be saying a sabotage because they're diagonal, they're touching. There could be sabotage on infrastructure, sabotage on bridges, buildings. I mean, that is what the warning or the threat was. Instead of the threat or warning of sabotage on infrastructure, maybe we need to find a more innovative solution to progress. Maybe we're having to find neighbouring countries, boundaries, merging divides, stronger, I'm saying stronger allies is what I'm hearing, but I'm feeling stronger ties and connections to bordering countries. This is blurred boundaries, it's merging divides. But it feels to be... Now, merging divides, merging borders or boundaries, merging between countries can be bridges. Getting from one place to another via what... Okay, so it may not be physical bridges. What is the way of getting from one place to another? That's what they're showing me. They're pointing out here, what is the way you get from one place to another? And I feel it's probably connected to trade routes. Are there other ways that they can go? Looking at making progress in those ways. Now, intuition, instinct, animal signals. What is it that we might be seeing about animals this week behaving strangely? It kind of doesn't fit with the rest of the narrative or the rest of the story here, but it's an interesting card. So looking out for, okay, what I'm feeling out of this is migrating whales. So what the path that the whales always take. Now, if they would act strangely, they would be taking a different route. So then that's bringing me back to whales being water, and trade routes on cargo ships on the water. So looking at different routes that can be taken rather than the normal migration patterns. I think that's what the connection here is. But pulling back and just taking a little look here, an overview of the energy of these cards are we're very heavy on structure or reforming the way things are currently done. We're looking at the regular migrating patterns of whales being the regular way that ships go through certain straits to get from one place to another, the bridging boundaries, one place to another. This becomes a turning point, realizing that we need stronger long-term vision for structures, foundations, for more efficient ways of doing things, improved situations, innovative solutions. So let's move on to the predictive energy for the week ahead. For the week ahead, things that we may hear about on the news, things that may be prominent this week. First thing I want to talk about is a support package or financial assistance for farmers. Here we've got harvest affected. I feel that's related to farmers and food production. So needing, I don't know if it's all countries or some countries, it will be prominent where we'll hear of looking for support packages or assistance, things that to assist the harvest or the farming industry. We then have the cosmic frontier above and beyond. Reminds me of the Artemis returning back from the moon in the headlines this week. Predictively, we're seeing overhauling or updating structure reform. Why that's sitting with the card of the Artemis. Now, sometimes this card comes out to remind me to do the astrology, but I briefly went over the astrology. Now, the astrology, how would that affect current situations or predictions? We've got bit of intensity with the stellium of Aries. Mercury is showing fractured communications on shaky grounds. Are we talking about communications with the Artemis, or are we talking about communications between negotiations and tension? I feel the health industry is also going to be in the news this week. It's going to be either affected, or there's going to be news about, I don't know if it's shortages to do with the medical industry or something, the healthcare being affected. Again, this is a basket of fruit on a farm, so it could be the farming industry sitting across on the other side, but I feel like I think it's to do with the healthcare industry in the news today. Washing away, cleansing sometimes talks about the water, the strait, but I don't feel so. I feel this is different this time. Also got to note, because we're doing the predictive energies for the week ahead, are we looking at some kind of earthquake? This is a card of the earthquake. This is a very earthy card as well. They're on a farm, so it's a very earth card? We're talking about instability on the earth. No, it's not heat. It's not earthquake. It's more like earthquake, shaky ground energy rather than volcano activity. Maybe that's affected by cosmic radiation. Maybe that's affected by something that's going on with the sun energy, affecting or triggering earthquakes this week because they're sitting side by side. So we're sitting with what's going on in the cosmos will affect the earth this week. So we could be looking at some kind of, and probably to see that you probably have to check in with Stefan Burns. He's really great at showing what's going on with the sun and how that might be affecting the earth this week. So I will take a look at that later this week to see what's coming in. That's how I'll find the answers of what's going on here, as I'll take a look at what he's saying could be coming this week. But the cards are saying that there could be something going on in above that affects below, so affects the earth. So I see a support package, financial support package. Now, I don't know if that means NDIS for Australia in the news, or we're talking about some kind of support package for farmers around the world, having to really get some structures, updating policies or overhaul the way things are done because fuel shortages, diesel shortages affecting transportation and affecting the farming industry, and really having to shift the way things are done, shift the thinking and start thinking about how to get through this current situation. Long-term visions. So there's a bit of structure or reform that's needed that we may hear about. A shift in thinking here, sitting next to washing away or cleansing. Washing away, cleansing can also be flooding, washing away, rains or flooding. Now, I don't know if that means flooding of farming areas. And with the farming industry, it's always one thing. So if it doesn't rain, it pours. So they're always one way or another. They're always in drought or they're always in flood. There's always things being a farmer that you are affected by. But I feel like it's very prominent with the farming industry this week, affected by something, whether it's natural earth things or what's going on in the world right now. But there seems to be very prominent energy around that today on the thing. Pulling energy back now to just take a look at the cards to see what I've missed. We're looking at effects of financial. This is one that I have missed. Effects of what's going on in the world is affecting people financially. So food becomes more expensive here. And more people needing food stamps or more people needing assistance when it comes to being able to afford food. This is more of a personal level, but I'm feeling like individual level, not collective. So because we're doing the predictive things, we may see a little bit of that happening this week. So let's do the personal navigation, how to navigate these energies on a personal level. So personal, how to navigate this energy. Well, there's a lot of unfolding dramas. There's always unfolding dramas. One thing I want to say, this is distraction spin, stage optic. So all these unfolding dramas that we're seeing on our news, on our media, you have to understand why when things are spun in a certain way, there's always an outcome or a desire here. So please be open-minded to people's energy being affected this week, people's energy being affected by what they're seeing on the news, even if it is a distracted spin or staged in a fear-based kind of energy. There's economic pressures, cost of living. So this is showing, and explosive detonation, extreme force. This card is showing me the stellium and Aries, the heightened tension, the heightened competition, the conflicting kind of energy. Personally, you may feel people affected by this energy, especially since we have that moon going into Aries around the 16th, 17th of April. So that's going to cause some people to feel emotional upheaval, emotional tension overwhelm it comes on suddenly, it comes on fast, and it comes on intense. So they may not know how to deal with that energy. But we do see dramas unfolding, but there's always dramas unfolding. So you have to be responsible and put your spin on it. So now there will be people that will feel tense, unrest, quite extreme by the energies of this current stellium. Based around economic pressures. So people reaching tipping point because of cost of pressure. So there's, it's not just what's going on in the world with the cost of pressures and things like that, and the scarcity thoughts that's circulating the economy or circulating the collective energy right now. There's more to it than that. There's more. It's like that's there, but then we've also got this stellium in Aries, so that's putting further tension, especially with the moon being in there. It's bringing in that emotion. It hits people emotionally this week. So there's a little bit of unrest with people. So just be aware of not everybody may be dealing with the current situation as well as you. People will see things differently. The optics of how people take on what's going on in the world, they will take that to heart in different ways. So some people will see it just as one more drama and put that spin on it as it's another drama, poor me kind of thing. Now, doesn't mean that that's not the wrong way to look at it. It's just how they view life. It's their optics of life. So you've got to understand that those people or some people are not dealing with it the way other people are dealing with it. Everybody deals with things differently. The fact is there's economic pressures, there's things going on in the world, there's a heavy stellium in Aries, there's things actually happening. Some people are not coping with that energy very well, but please know if this is you feeling like it just feels like the drama's just getting too much, and I don't want to say drama's the wrong word. It feels like just one pressure over another building up and it feels like too much. There will be a lot of people going through that this week. So please be mindful of those around you that could be feeling quite heavy pressures this week, intense emotional energy this week. And it may cause people to react here in a kind of intense way, explosive kind of way. So just be mindful that everybody is dealing with the situation in different ways, and that some people just really are not dealing with the pressure of all of this very well. If this is you, my heart goes out to you, but just be kind to those around you. Just be understanding that some people are going through difficult situations, even though they may not show you that. They may not be coping with certain situations. So just check in with loved ones, check in with yourself as well. And I hope you have a beautiful week ahead.